Welcome, woodworkers of the world, to the Swedish knife grip sessions. In this session we are going to make a chopstick from the Morakniv kit, chopstick kit. And this can be a little tricky because the wood which comes with the kit is sawn, it's not splitted, and it's dry Swedish birch. Very good quality, perfect wood, no knots, but it's sawn, which means that the fiber can very slightly run in another direction than we want to. So we have to take care a lot when we are carving this and use all these 10 knife grips that I've shown you before in previous sessions. To carve very good is to work in green wood. That's much easier than to work in dry wood. So you have to prepare the sticks by soaking them in water approximately an hour before you start to cut. So I have a bucket of water and I soak them here, and now they are ready to cut. And the first thing I have to do is to mark up these bits so I know where the center of the endings is. And I'm using a pencil which works on green wood, and I make a little plus here, centering this piece at both ends. A chopstick is very thin at one end. It's about 1/8 of an inch. And at the other end it's thicker, about 3/16 of an inch. In millimeter this is about 3 up to 8 millimeter in thickness. The overall length is about 9.5 inches, about 240 millimeters. So we have to trim this to be very straight all the way, but tapered. So now I will make from the very center about 2 millimeter from each side. I'll make a 4 millimeter measure at the very thinnest point and an 8 millimeter measure at the thickest point. And a good thing here can be to have a ruler and make a line to follow in between these points. So now I have 2 lines here, and all this material on the side has to go away. But now in this moment I don't know how the fibers are running in this piece. I have to start and try that out. The knife that follows the kit is a model 120, which is a little shorter. And I start to cut on the side with the elbow cut like this, all the way down to that line on both sides. But here I can have a feeling that the knife is stopping, so I'm starting a little further and try to move back. But then at a certain point I can feel that I'm cutting across the wood. So here I have to switch the knife and come from this direction instead. And then I move this hand up here and are using the pull grip like this instead, trying to see that line all the way up here and work myself up like this. So here you have to be very careful. As soon as you can feel that the knife starts to cut cross wood, you have to switch the knife's direction in the wood. So you can actually see that if you take a close look to the wood. And let me show you a very close up to this. If you take a close look here, you can see how the fibers are running like this here. The grain and the wood has grown like this. And this can cause some problems when we are carving. Because if I cut here in this direction, it will work. But then if I continue the cut over this little hill here, it will start to split very quickly. So I have to go the other way. So here's a turning point where on this side I have to cut in this direction, and on this side in that direction. But since it's curving here, it can split out just a little here, so I have to be careful here and maybe come from this direction at the very end here. So this explains why you have to find out how the grain is in your certain special piece before you start to cut more heavily, and trying to find these borders where you are switching the knife in another direction. So now I'm working my way down to that line with the elbow grip like this, trying to make a little ridge here on the side which has the same depth as this one on the other side. And then I have to take away this material here in between these ridges. Just to explain this a little clearer for you, I want to show you this sketch. So here we have the end grain of the piece, like looking at it from this view. And here are the two center lines that centers the whole piece. And here is the very end of the thin part of the chopstick. And then when you start to cut, you have a side line coming from here at a diagonal all the way up to the thicker part, one from each side here. And then you cut from one side, first cut a little facet or a bevel on one side. And then you try to cut the second cut to the same height of this. So you get a rim here, a little ridge at the top here. So that's the third cut, cutting it down all the way here and make a flat surface like that. And then you flip it over and do the same thing here, like this. So what I'm trying to do now is to find a side view here which follows that line. So I'm cutting this one down like this, all the way down to the line there. I'm using pull grip here, and I can also use a skew grip like this. So I'm cutting, because this is a little easier, because then I can see this line very carefully and have support with my hand on the side of the material like this. And to take small pieces, I'm going to use the scissor grip, which is a very short cut and very controlled, where I'm placing the palm of my hands up, pushing with the fingers towards my body, and then I can control the grip very firmly like this. So now I'm flattening this side, thinking about the line there, which I have here on the side. And I can look at it like this. I can see it's a little twisted now, so I have to take a little more here at the top to flatten it out. Because I want these sides to be squared. This squared mode helps me to make parallel and long lines like this. So now I flip and do the same thing on the other side. And here I can very clearly feel that I have cross grain. So I have to switch to another grip and cut towards my body like this instead. And remember to flip this hand like this and hold it very gently and press it onto your body so you can feel safe and have a secure grip all the time. And remember these lines here. Here we have a little turning point, so to say. So here at this moment I have to switch and come and cut in this direction instead. So now I have this ridge again, and then I'm going to take away the material in between the sides here and the ridge. You see here, this is very handy. I'm pressing it down to my leg, holding it with the fingers, so I have a little jig in here. And then I can flip it up so I can see this, how much wood I'm taking away here, and see the form very clearly. Oh, I still have some more material to get rid of. So now I have two sides which are tapered. You see, this is, I haven't done anything on this side yet. I'm taking just two sides and taper them. And then I can hold this piece a little away from me to check if it's straight or not. And I can tell it curves just a little, so I have to take just a tiny little bit at the very end to trim that down. Oh, much better. So now I take the pencil again and I make new marks, and with the ruler. And now, actually, the fiber directions can differ a little when you're flipping it over, so you have to check this one more time. So now I don't have the same amount of wood to take away, so I'm a little more careful now when I'm carving, and I'm just start at the very end like this and take away material till I come down to the line there, and then I can continue my way up like this. And of course I can use the skewer here like this. I can also use the knee grip like this. And I can use the pull grip like this. But here I have a problem because the fibers are running a little scary, remember? And then I take a little at the very end first, all the way down, so the tip is squared here at the very end. And then I try to, you see how it cuts and wants to cut in here. So here is a bottom line for the fibers. So I start to cut down here, coming towards my body with the pull grip. And here I have to come the other way around, like this. And as soon as it stops like this, you have to be careful. And here I can use the can opener, which is a very hard grip to do. But I'm placing my thumb here on the top. I'm squeezing the knife in between my fingers like this, almost hiding the handle. And then I have a 90-degree position of my hand, place the thumb here, and then I'm steering the knife tip towards my nose so it comes up, so I can work like this. And this is a wonderful grip to control. But here I'm cutting towards the grain, so I have to flip it over and come from the other side. And now at the very end I'm using the crossed thumb grip, which is a combination of the thumb push like this and like this. So I'm stretching out my left hand thumb to the very back of the blade, placing the knife hand thumb in under like this, so I can press down the bevel into the wood and control it by steering the knife like this back and forth. Because right here the fibers are running like this, so I have to be very careful so I don't take too much and the wood splits out. So the closer you come to the shape and the design, the slower you carve and the more accurate you have to be. So you can see when I have to take away a lot of material, I'm using powerful knife grips, like the pull grip and the elbow and the power grip and the scissor. But then when I'm coming closer and closer to the line, I'm using more smaller cuts like this, the thumb grip, to be able to control the material much better. This is excellent to do a chopstick, because then you really learn how the fibers are running. And of course now the wood is green again, so I have to dry it and then I have to clean carve it in a dried mode, so to say. So now I'm measuring 24 centimeters, and that is about here. So I know it's not going to be longer than that. So I'll make a 90-degree cut here directly down into the wood, and then I'm using the crossed thumbs to make a V cut, which will give us the very end of this chopstick. So this is how long it will be. Now I can start to trim the sides, make it smoother, make it flatter, and remember to flip it as soon as the fibers are running in another direction. It's still a little thick here, so I'm going to trim it a little more on this side. And I will make the finial exactly like I'm doing the end. So I place the knife in 90 degrees towards my knee, and then I rotate the piece of wood so I can follow this 90-degree angle here all the way around. So now when I cutted fibers, I can go from each side and make a 45-degree cut from each side with the crossed thumb grip, like this. So now I'm going to cut the end off with a Japanese saw. And then set it off to dry for about overnight. And then run the knife over this surface one more time to make it clean and nice. And also to chamfer this corner just a tiny little bit to make it a little smoother and a little nicer. And in the very end, you can actually burnish the surface by using the back of your knife like this, and press and compress the fibers a little and smoothen them out. So this is how you make a chopstick. Good luck with yours.